Do we know if Jason's here? Are we ready to call the closed session meeting in order? Your roll call?
Yep.
We need a motion to go into close.
That's what I thought.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session.
Support?
This motion by Dr. Pomponio, support by Treasurer Craig to go into closed session. Is there any discussion? None being, can we please call the vote?
Yes. Vice President Green,
Yes.
Trustee Pomponio,
Yes.
Trustee Sage,
Yes.
Trustee Freitas,
Yes.
Trustee Lamos,
Yes.
President Estheimer,
He's excused.
and Trustee Craig.
Yes.
Motion passes. We are now in closed session. the meeting of the Southgate Board of Education for Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. Can you please stand, recite the, oops, sorry. Ms. Grahowski, could I please have a roll call?
Mr. Craig,
Here.
Mr. Estheimer,
He's excused.
Mr. Freitas,
Here.
Mr. Green,
Present.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes, I'm here.
Dr. Pomponio,
Here.
Mr. Sage.
Here.
We please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Southgate Community Schools mission statement is learning for life. Our vision statement, Southgate Community Schools, the best choice for students and parents. Do I have a revision of the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Vice President, I'd like to make a revision to the consent letter I for number 3. I would like to revise it to say disbursements from February 2021.
For support?
Support.
I got a motion from Secretary Pomponio, support from Treasurer Craig. Is there any discussion? Ms. Grahowski, roll call, please.
Mr. Freitas,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Mr. Craig.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. We have an agenda for tonight's board meeting that'll take us to item E. Ms. Irvine, do we have any citizens' comments?
We do. We have one comment today from Mr. Robert Pulowski. And he says, good evening. You guys have been back for a while now, and I wanted to say thank you for letting the students go back into the buildings for in-person learning. Thank you to the staff and to the teachers for coming back to work during this difficult time. This is a start to normalcy. Hopefully we can get this normalcy up for the rest of the year and into the next school year. Thank you for acknowledging my comment tonight. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and a weekend as well. Thank you and take care. Go Titans.
Thank you. It'll bring us to item F, which is presentations. The bond presentation, I believe that is Rob. So Rob, you are on.
All
I
right.
hope.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I am here.
Hello.
Good evening, Rob.
Good evening. So yeah, today presentation want to review with you, do a design development presentation for the new pool and weight room addition project, as we're getting closer here to wrapping up design and getting this project out to bid. Kind of wanted to give you a recap of where we're at with the scope, schedule, and the budget. And then at the conclusion of that, also give you a quick little update on some recent bids that we've had related to our renovation work for the summer of 21 at Grogan and Davidson, and then some roofing bids that we received here today for Grogan and Anderson. So review a couple different things with you. But first we'll go with the presentation for the pool and weight room. We also have Mark McPartland from TMP Architectures on the line with us as well too. If we have any questions on design, he can help answer any questions as well. So let's see, I'm going to present here. All right, hopefully that's pulled up for you guys. Got it? Okay. All right. So jumping in here, what we'll look at today, just an overview of the bond ballot proposal as a recap. Schedule update, design development scope of work for the natatorium addition, the weight room renovation, then the athletic lobby renovation, do a budget overview, and then any questions and answers you guys have related to this project. So we look at the overview of the bond and ballot proposal. Just a reminder from when we started this program a little over a year ago now. some of the historic facts: 0 millage rate increase for this program. Your average age of the buildings was over 65 years old, and your previous bond programs were in 1999 and 2015. Some of the goals and objectives to the program were provide school safety and security enhancements, update the technology for essential 21st century learning, preserve the educational facilities and infrastructure, and impact every student in the first 2 years. So just to kind of recap where we're at with that. So looking at the schedule of where we're at right now with the program. So the design development estimate has been completed by Granger Construction. We'll review those numbers here in a few minutes related to the budget, but they have done their estimate. At design development, we're at probably about, 70% documents complete. So there's still assumptions being made. There's still some unknowns. There's still changes to be made, but it just gives us another benchmark along the way to kind of check the progress, see which way we're moving, making sure we're still on track with everything. So TMP had finished those up a little over a month ago, and Granger was working on the estimate for that. So we got that complete. TMP is also working on Bid Pack 1 construction documents. They have completed those, and that's for the site work, the utilities, the structural concrete, and the paving related to this project. So we're actually looking at issuing 2 different bid packs for this project just to help expedite and get construction started here a little bit sooner if we can. So we have a first bid package that TMP's completed those documents. Granger is reviewing those right now and working on preparing their bid documents to release here in the next couple days, actually. We'll be getting this posted and out to the bidders with a pre-bid meeting tentatively scheduled for next week right now. So we're wrapping up those items and working to get that first bid package out for this project. We're also working on the finishes and the color selections. In the next couple weeks, look to start buttoning those up. We had a meeting last week to sit down and go through some initial feedback on some colors. We looked at tile samples, paint samples, flooring samples, kind of looked at some initial stuff. TMP is going to take that feedback and then come back with some plans, some elevations, and give us some ideas of what some of those finished spaces will look like with the color selections made inside those spaces. So it was a good couple hour meeting last week to kind of get some ideas on starting to wrap up the finishes in there. Then TMP is going to take that information and work on getting the Bid Pack 2 documents completed with a final check set by late March for the team to go through and verify everything, with a target to have the bid documents completed by the end of March and turned over to Granger so they could start packaging them up. Granger could issue those for bids in early April. And then we'll be looking at contract award recommendations for Bid Pack 1 to be presented to the board here at one of the upcoming April meetings. And then Bid Pack 2 would be probably a month or so behind that at one of the May meetings. So as we get a little closer and get some dates targeted with bid due dates and post-bid meetings and wrapping all that up, we'll be coming back for those April and May board meetings for approvals for those packages. With that, Granger is targeting to mobilize to the site and start sometime in May. We're working on some site logistics plans right now, reviewing with the high school principals and assistant principals to work out kind of some staging areas and our lay down and logistics plans out there. So hopefully in May, we're starting to mobilize and start seeing some construction out there, with the target of being substantially complete in August of 2022, ready for the school year. So kind of gives you a quick little overview of the progress and where we're at right now with the schedule.
I've got one question. Just what is SCS?
SCS, Southgate Community Schools.
Okay.
Sorry, just the nomenclature I think we've used for a while, just referencing back to.
So who were involved within that from the schools?
For the finishes, we had Sharon and Jacob were there. We had Dave Pinkowski was at the meeting. We had Sean was on the phone for a virtual meeting included in that. And I think that was it for the 4 staff members that we had there for that meeting.
Thank you very much.
Those initial colors.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Any other questions on schedule?
No, but I do have a question about the plan for the summer. Do we still have on the list for Davidson, the signage? I know I keep bringing that up, but I want to see that sign out there by the school they're the only school that doesn't have the sign. So I know it's in there somewhere. I just wanted to know if it was for this summer.
It is not for this summer. It was not in the first series work for the bond program out there right now.
Okay.
So, right now, Davidson's scope of work was strictly limited in this first series to the bathrooms, getting those renovated as a top priority, and then replacing the classroom doors for security purposes throughout there. So Davidson's limited to those two scopes right now for the first summer's worth of work.
Okay. Is it in the next year? Because I know I've seen it. I've seen it on the schedule.
It would be, I'd have to go, I haven't looked at Davidson's scope for Series 2. The rest of their remaining work is scheduled to be done in 2024. So I
Wow.
can verify that, but it's Series 2 work. This was a 2-series bond program, so most of the work was just how it got divvied up and selected was security and the bathrooms and a lot of the high profile, or I guess the hot ticket items were in the series, and Davidson's renovation was in Series 2. I know that. So.
Okay. I just wanted to mention to Sharon, because I know you weren't here in the later part of last year, but I know that the school did save up money and they did have enough, like almost enough for it. And we were going to look at the bond and try to move that up. So I don't know where that stands, but I just really would like to see something, especially now that we have a lot of remote students. You know, parents will try to look for information, and if we can have stuff in the school, like posted, I don't know if it's going to be electronic or not, but I just want to keep pushing for Davidson because they need to have something there. So I apologize for bringing it up again, but I just would like to see that somewhere soon. And 2024 seems like a far away time for that, but just want to put that out there.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pomponio. You're absolutely right. That would be a very long wait for something like that. So we'll have a conversation with Rob and look at what might be available. We're looking at that for the high school now in terms too of what that curb appeal looks like. And we've readjusted some of that branding kind of planning. So I'm sure we can consider Davidson as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rob.
No problem. All right, so looking at some of the scope of work for the project. As an overview, it's a 2-story, 22,700 square foot natatorium addition. It'll include the 8-lane competition swimming pool, locker rooms, meet management office, coach's office, 2 family changing rooms, storage, spectator seating, mechanical electrical room, and pool equipment storage room. There'll be a new elevator and stair towers up to the upper level spectator seating, and then the new rooftop HVAC equipments and dehumidification units for the pool addition. The weight room renovation will consist of converting the existing 5,300 square foot natatorium into a weight room and fitness facility. We will infill the existing pool, install new rubber sports flooring, new windows, paint, and lighting for that space, along with new rooftop HVAC unit for the heating in that space. And then the existing athletic lobby, we're looking at constructing a new ramp that'll get you to the new weight room and fitness facility. The elevations on those are slightly off. So we need to build a ramp to get access directly into that space. And then it'll have a new connection from that lobby to the new connection to the natatorium lobby. So the new pool lobby entrance as well. When we start looking at the overall plan, so this gives you a high level overview of the entire campus. You can see the high school here. Starting at the top is your parent drop-off lane, your visitors parking lot. Down all the way to the bottom of the page is our construction area. So we have our staff and student parking lot here. This orange area is the existing, your existing pool structure there. And then behind that is the new addition that would be included for the new pool. with that, you can see it in relation to the fence of the baseball field and the softball field over here. So this kind of gives you a high level bird's eye view of how that addition will sit on the campus there. When we zoom in a little bit on the site work of it, so right now there is a circle drive back there. It actually extends back a little bit further right now, so we will revise that, but we'll have a new circle drive back into there. You got the new sidewalks and the concrete in front of the entrance here for that space. You have sidewalks coming off the back. Right now, there's an exit door that comes out of your current athletic lobby that a lot of the athletes come out of the locker rooms and come out of that building. That's where our connection point is for the new pool lobby. So we'll have that. We'll have a new exterior door there that gets them out. We'll have sidewalks going around the building that also tie into the tennis courts or lead back to the baseball field or around to the back around to the front of the building. When we start looking at the overall first floor plan for the pool, as mentioned, here is that connection point where we're tying in the existing double doors that lead out of the athletic lobby. This will be our new pool lobby. You'll have your exit out of the building. When we come down that pool lobby, there's a set of doors here to be able to close that off if there's times that you want to keep the natatorium isolated from the rest of the building. There will be a set of doors there. You come through those doors. We'll have our new stair tower that will lead up to the second floor seating, the visitor seating for the pool. Within that will be the new elevator for access up into there. When you continue down the lobby, you'll come to the first set of locker rooms. Coming in there, have your locker room set up, your bathrooms, your stalls, your showers, and then you can lead out from there right onto the pool deck. Coming back down, leading down the main hallway, you come to a wet passage area that you can get through right to the pool deck itself there. And within that passage, there's the two family changing bathrooms there for people to use, families to use if they're coming in to swim. You'll have the coach's office, the meet manager's office, and a storage room for the pool area here off of this wet passage. And then you continue down the hallway and we have access to another locker room here. Same layout as above, but you have your locker area, a couple bathroom, or a couple stalls, toilets, sinks, a couple showers, and then it leads out to the pool deck area. Here we'll have an entrance. This could be a visitor entrance to the pool area. If there's times after school for activities that go on, you could have an entrance into the pool space from these doors here if they're not coming through the main school area. So we have an entrance designed here. Then you come down into the pool. This gives you your 8-lane pool laid out with the deck space that we had talked about initially needing for the events that you guys would like to host there. Seating around the perimeter of that with a bench around there with room to install some additional bleachers as needed for larger events and stuff that you have. You'll have your another pool storage room here for the pool equipment, electrical room, mechanical room, and then your pool filtration room. So a lot of this area is kind of the core areas for the equipment for the pool. Buddy, can you turn that down, please? So then we go up to the second floor. Again, coming off that stairwell off the main corridor, you'd come up to the second floor. You have the walkway behind the bleachers. So people coming in, visitors can come in, can walk to the aisle they want to walk down and then to their bleacher seat. So all the traffic would be behind the seating, looking down into the pool. And then down here on the south side, you have an emergency stair for egress that leads you out of the building for your second means of egress off of this second floor landing area here. So this second floor is really just this area. You have seating for a capacity of about 420 people, 414 seats plus 6 handicap seats in the 7 rows of seating on that second floor mezzanine area. This just gives you an overall roof plan. Nothing too exciting here. Shows us our dehumidification unit for this roof. It's a very large, or for the pool, it's a very large unit. It'll sit on that lower roof for the mechanical, electrical, and filtration rooms. And then we have 3 units here that'll service the locker rooms, the pool seating area as well, and then the corridor space and the offices and stuff. So these 3 units will service these areas over here and the dehumidification for the pool. When we go over to the weight room and the athletic lobby, so starting in the athletic lobby, here's your current entrance into from outside into your athletic lobby. Your concession stand is right up here. So this is the new ramp that we're looking at building. This is the current wall right here that is currently there with all of the trophy cases lined up across there. So we're gonna build this new wall here. Buddy, I'm sorry, guys. Here, all right, go. Sorry, my wife is not home right now, so doing double duty with kids behind me. So this is the current wall that's there with the trophy cases. So we're going to construct this new ramp that brings you up to the elevation of the current pool deck here. So we'll construct this wall here, and then we're looking at running the trophy cases along this wall in a similar location, but they'd run down along this wall and some along this wall as well too. So same amount of trophy cases in that area, but just constructing this ramp to be able to get you up to this space. And then we're creating this new passageway that is going to get you right onto the what's going to be the new weight room deck. So these are the current locker rooms for the pool right now. We're going to do some demolition to allow us to construct this new passageway through here. So you can come up the ramp, lead right into the pool, the new weight room deck here. With this space, you can see the dashed line. This is the current footprint of the pool. We are going to infill that pool and pour a new slab. So this is all one elevation, one concrete slab area in here. And then, as previously mentioned, this will get all new rubber flooring. We're going to install some new windows here on the south side to bring some more natural light into that space. Remove the ceilings in there, paint everything, new lighting with the new flooring, the windows. This will essentially be a brand new, freshly renovated, wide open space for all your new weight room equipment for the space. So it'll end up being a very nice weight room, I think, in that space when it's all fully renovated. Just to kind of give you an idea, some cuts through the building. This top half is looking east. So if you were standing on the tennis court looking back at the new addition that we're putting up, and if somebody saw cut right through the middle of that building, what would you see? You would look, here's that support room where the mechanical and electrical rooms are and the pool storage. This is that big dehumidification rooftop unit that's there. You can see we'll have a screen wall blocking that. So you won't be able to see that from the ground. There'll be a decorative screen wall around that unit. And then this shows you the height of the new pool roof. You have the pool deck and the tank, the deep end here, shallow end here, your doors leading into the locker rooms, your passageway leading back into the main corridor there, and then you have your 7 rows of seating up top here. So it just kind of gives you, if you were standing looking through that way, what that would look like. This elevation is turned the other way, so this is looking north. If you were standing on the baseball field and we took a cut through the building, you can see over here, here's the existing pool that we're going to infill. This dark line here is the elevation of the pool deck there. And as you can see, it is quite a bit higher than what the new pool is going to be. So there's that half elevation height that we have to build the ramp in the lobby to get us up to this elevation here. But this is the existing pool. And then we come over, you can see the walkway behind the bleachers. Walk down the bleachers and your seating, and then you can see your sight lines right down to the pool deck here. Wide open spaces, all your mechanical up on the roof, everything run up in the truss spaces up above. So very clean sight lines down to the pool when you're sitting there. These couple elevations just kind of show if you're sitting inside what it would look like. So the orange here, or tan, whatever it is on your guys' window, is kind of showing we're going to have a glazed tile going up 8 foot on the walls. And then from there, it'll be CMU with like an epoxy paint up to the ceiling. So we'll have a glazed block to add some color, some durability for that wall up 8 foot, and then painted up above. You can see the windows. We have high bay windows for a portion of it. We have some vertical skinnier windows, and then we have some large windows here on the one side. So, you know, lots of natural light coming in over there. And then this is looking towards the south. If you were standing inside the pool, again, you see your 8-foot high glazed block, a couple of doors, the seating and everything with those elevations. Standing outside looking at it, you can kind of see how it ties in with the rest of the building. We have the red glazed brick that'll make up the main stair tower, the main lobby here area, to definitely add some branding for the district, some color contrast on there. This shows the dehumidification unit, the screen wall around there, so you can just kind of see the footprint of what it would look like in a nice rendering. One thing you will notice, if you remember from the first presentation that we had, is we had the STA logo on the building just as a placeholder here. One thing we did have, and we've started, is we actually met today to start looking at some branding for the district. We had TMP come out and walk the school, meet with the principals and the staff out there, and brought their marketing people to come out and just kind of hear from the district on what type of branding and marketing that they could do on this building potentially. So we walked basically all around the entire building, interior and exterior, looked at a lot of the main spaces just to give them some ideas, took some input that we had received from the staff. We walked out to the athletic fields, just kind of got an overall feeling for the school and the district, and relayed that to the architect. And then we're going to schedule a meeting here in the next couple weeks to kind of come back and talk with Sharon and some of the others to figure out, next steps of maybe have them bring us some ideas of what they've done for other districts or what they could envision being done out here, and throw some ideas to you guys and kind of start that process of tying in some branding for this. So we just had that meeting this afternoon to walk through and look at some of that. So got many good ideas. They took lots of photos, and be interested to see what they come back with here in the next couple weeks. This just kind of zooms in, looks at, this will be the new pool entrance that could be used for after hours or events that you may have. But it shows you kind of the contrast with the red they're looking to incorporate and some of the colors for branding for the school. Coming around to the other side, this is the mechanical room that you see, and the screen wall up above, so you won't see the big mechanical unit that's up there. Come around the other side, you can see the windows from the outside, allowing the natural light into that space. And then when we come into that building, so this is like coming in the exterior doors to the lobby. So give you kind of a feel of what it looked like. You have the doors on the left leading into the passageway to get to the pool, a door here into the locker room. Got an open ceiling concept with lights and sound panels up above, some baffles to help with sound. Looking at some lighter walls, some darker floors through that area, some natural light with the windows and stuff. So I think a very modern look for this new pool lobby when it's all said and done. And we're working through some of those final color selections and stuff now. So we'll come back with more drawings and updates on final color selections, but this kind of gives you some of the general ideas of ways that they're looking at it right now. So that kind of recaps an overview of the scope of the work and gives you some of the drawings and details for each of those spaces. So now we'll look at the budget overview. So looking at the natatorium and the weight room, the initial budget for the project was just under $9 million, $8,977,280. Our design development estimate from Granger right now for the pool is $9.88 million. For the weight room, design development estimate is just over $800,000, $819. And then the athletic lobby is $107,000 for that. With that, they do have a design contingency included right now of 6% on top of their estimates. And those are included in the numbers above. So their total design estimate right now is just over $10.8 million. So we're currently about $1.8 million over budget from what we have in the bond program right now. Just to kind of recap at the bottom there, the schematic design, 2 months ago when we were working through this, they were at $11.1 million for a budget. So we were about $2.185 million over. So we are trending down. We are looking at every avenue that we can to work on cost and discussing everything that we can, knowing there's a few key features to the space that are non-negotiable for changes. So the team is working pretty hard on that. But if we look at some of the steps moving forward to address the budget, what are we doing to work to get us back on budget? One of the first things we did is we've started a cost control log. We've done this on every project so far, but we look to identify any potential cost saving changes without affecting the overall design intent. So I think right now we have up to 25 items on the list, but we meet with the architect, the construction manager, the engineers, the civil engineers, everybody involved in the project, and start looking at potential items that could be a cost savings. We have Granger look at putting some cost to those, and then we determine, is it something that is a viable item? Is it something that is no, we reject it right away, that we would never want to accept that? And then we have some that are potential. That may be an option. Let's explore it a little bit further. So we continuously go through that list to try to come up with ideas. Currently, we've identified about $110,000 in savings. There's actually more than that on there, but a lot of those have been incorporated into the estimate already. So right now, there's about another $110,000 that we're looking at as potential saving items. And then there's another $200,000 that are in the potential list right now. We have to look at those to dig into them a little bit further, get some more information, and see if it's something that we think is viable. So we continue to do that all the way through the entire process to come up with cost savings items. There's also items in the scope that are in the scope of work now, but they're not necessarily in the pool budget. Right now, the $8.9 million that we have for the pool budget is strictly for the pool, the dollars we had associated with the pool. There's some other items in the bond scope of work that are scheduled to be done, but they were separate line items in the estimate, and we just haven't carried those over into the estimate yet. So, for example, the boiler replacement, there's 3 boilers at the high school. All 3 are going to get replaced through the bond program. But in Series 1, we had scheduled to replace 1 boiler. So as part of the pool project, we're going to replace that boiler now. We're going to upsize it so that it can handle the load for the new pool being put on the addition being put on the building. But we have the funds there. It's not that $105,000 that we have wasn't in the $8.9 million for the pool. So we have to allocate those funds over to the pool. So it's included in the scope. We just have to move the dollars over to the budget right now. And so that's one item. The emergency generator, we have money in there for the generator to be replaced here in Series 1. We think that can be replaced, and there's potentially a savings of $100,000 from what we have allocated in the budget right now for that. So there's additional funds there that we could allocate towards the pool. The flooring and the painting in the lobby with that new ramp that's going in there, we're going to have to replace some of the flooring. We're going to have to do some painting in that area. In the bond program, there's miscellaneous painting and flooring throughout the corridors and throughout the school that we don't have anything identified where specifically. They were just allocations for work to be done. So we could potentially allocate about $10,000 out of those funds to put towards the overage that we have here for the painting and flooring that's going to be done in that lobby area. The football turf replacement, when we bid that project, we have about $120,000 right now in savings from that. We were under budget by $53,000, I think. And then in contingency, we had about $70,000 there. So there's some funds there that we could allocate towards this project. The Granger estimate, right now, as mentioned, they have a 6% design contingency allocated in there. So there's about $612,000 that is just in their number right now for design for contingency factors right now. So that's an area of potential savings throughout. And then in the program, we have cost escalation, and we have an owner's contingency set aside for various components. Cost escalation obviously is for costs through time that go up. We have a healthy contingency for both that and the owner that we could allocate some additional funds to the project out of those 2 buckets as well too. So, I mean, we are trying to, and these aren't necessarily all the items. I mean, we continue to look for other areas that we can have savings. The key is not to change the focus of the pool. We had some pretty strict guidelines at the beginning that we needed to meet. So we are trying to do that without affecting the overall impact of the pool. So we're trying to look at every means we can for possible dollars. And with that, I mean, I think we will end up being very close and be able to definitely fund this project and get you guys a project that be happy with at the end of the road when it's all said and done. But one of the biggest things that is also going to help us is strong bidder participation. Granger has already been reaching out to contractors. We are inviting, as many contractors as we can, reaching out to the locals, BAs, any contacts that any of us have, from myself, TMP, Granger, anybody that we have, to reach out to the contractors and draw interest in this project. Nothing helps the budget more than getting great bidder participation. When we review some of the numbers here in a minute with the summer work that we had pretty good, we had really good participation with that, and it showed in our overall numbers when it came in. So that is one of the best things we can do, is continue to market this project and push hard. And Granger is doing that. They are hitting the phones, reaching out to everybody, and make sure that we get good coverage on bid day will help us. So with that kind of summarizes everything that I have for this presentation. Any questions, anything that I can answer for you guys here today related to that?
What exactly is the owner's contingency?
What exactly is an owner's contingency?
Yeah,
So when the bond program was set up and we started to, if you go through the bond application itself, there's line items for all sorts of costs and fees. And at the bottom, there's percentage markups for professional fees and costs and CM fees, various things. But we basically tear that apart and we recreate the budget when we set up the program. With that, we always try to set up an owner's contingency that basically allows the district some additional funds that we can set aside for projects if we have, projects come in over budget, or we find that there's something additional we want to do to a project, or, something changes and we need to get something else done. It's just a contingency set aside that's not assigned to any project right now that allows us to put funds towards a project on a as needed basis. So we had set one up at the beginning of the last bond program. We set one up at the beginning of this bond program just to allow some flexibility with various projects along the way for the duration of the bond program.
I think I remember seeing that on some of the handouts that you gave us. Didn't we have some things on there, like a list of things, if we can refer back to it if we had extra funds available?
That was, you might be referencing the last bond program towards the end. We started like a wish list of items.
I think that was it.
As we got probably within the last year of the project, we started taking all the things that, Leslie and the team at that time. And then when Jill came on, we just started talking, hey, we would like to add this or do this or do this. And we didn't want to allocate funds for it then. So we started that list. And then when we got done, I think when we finished, we were probably, I can't remember exactly, but 700,000, maybe $1 million under budget at the end. When we started doing the bathrooms at Anderson, we did those two main ones by the cafeteria. That took a big chunk out of it. But part of that was, savings along the way. And some of that was owner contingency that was set aside that we ended up not allocating throughout the duration of the project. So we just always try to have a little bit of contingency for changes that you guys may want to make along the way. Or in a case where we come in over budget on a project, gives us that ability to allocate additional funds to the program.
Okay, that sounds good. I just wasn't sure if it was what I was thinking of, but that was the first project. Thanks.
Mr. Sage?
Yeah, so I'm not on mute. Oh, okay, good. Can we get a copy of this scope of work? I don't know if we've got a copy of this presentation.
I just emailed it out to Sharon probably an hour and a half ago as we wrapped it up. So I did send it out so she could post it, send it to you guys. And then if you wanted to post it on your website or whatever, she does. but I did just send over a copy for you guys.
All right, I just got a few questions here, Rob. So then with the weight room, I had the opportunity to walk through the school this morning, and with filling in the pool and such, what about the stands that are above the pool? Are those existing? Are those going to remain?
Right now they're just set to remain. I mean, we'll clean up that area, we'll paint that area, but the stands themselves are really going to stay there for right now. We've talked to the teachers about, maybe that's a space for kids when they're not participating could sit up there, or, gives them a chance to maybe utilize some of that. We talked about maybe at some point trying to get some stairs up to there. So a couple options we've looked at, but right now we're just kind of leaving them the way they are, but they'll get refreshed with painting of the walls and the lighting and everything in that space.
Okay. And then the pool storage that will no longer be needed per se, what's happening with that area? As far as I went downstairs, and right now there's just basically garbage down there. Is that all going to get cleaned out? Or what I don't want it to happen is it just get forgotten, and then we got this beautiful weight room, and then you travel to a different area and it's just garbage.
Are you talking down where like the mechanical room is around the pool and stuff? Oh, you went down to the depths of it. Yeah, we will. I mean, all the equipment, everything related to that will get demoed out, and cleaned out of there. I can't remember if there's any school stuff down there. I think Jacob's done a pretty good job of cleaning some of that out, but I mean, the intent really is we'll clean out anything that's getting demolished that's not being used anymore. Equipment-wise, will get removed and pulled out of there. So it's just basically, empty space for you guys, whether it's storage or just gets walled up and nothing down there. So,
right. Okay. And then as far as the pool itself, have we talked about chlorine versus salt, or do you only go with chlorine, or have you guys discussed that at all?
we did have a meeting with the pool consultant and the pool committee probably 6 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks ago, that we kind of went through each of the different systems and we talked about equipment, and he had a slideshow of probably 20 different items to kind of walk through and get feedback from everybody. And I know the chlorine system was one of them. I don't remember exactly what was selected, but I mean, everybody kind of came to a consensus for each of those systems, and I can work on getting that presentation for you guys and have it sent over.
I think it'd be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And the costs associated with salt versus chlorine over the course of the next 10 or 15 years.
Yep.
Because generally the salt generator is going to cost more at the beginning, but over time it pays for itself, at least with what I've dealt with in the past. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I will. I'll follow up with the pool consultant. I'll get that presentation that we did with the notes, and we can send it over.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Rick.
So is it, I'm not a construction guy by any stretch of the imagination. I can't even hammer a nail straight. Hey there, little guy. All right.
He's on his tablet right now, so
That's fine. Hey there, little man. What's going on? So is the swimming pool and all the associated work around there, is that more complex engineering than the football field?
Complex engineering, yes, without a doubt. Totally different type, but yes, there is a lot more to that.
So on that line of reasoning, what I want to do is I want to make sure that we have the governance in place to make sure we don't have a football field problem in the pool like we did outside. And I'm not sure what that should look like, but I would respectfully ask that be part of our whole process here. I think the board should know who the folks are that are involved in that compliance, what the process is, so that we don't end up in the same boat. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
I can't tell you what to do, but that's what I think makes sense, and would appreciate Ms. Irvine's oversight of that. And then go ahead. Go ahead.
Say there's definitely a totally different structure for this program. We have a construction manager on board, Granger, that'll be involved. I mean, they are involved now, but they will be on site full time. They will have multiple staff on site. They are going to have their site office inside of the high school. So they will have staff on site each and every day that works out there. TMP will also be out there. It's a totally different setup, totally different way that the project was run. The other one was a a direct prime contract. And we don't need to go into details right now. I'd be happy to talk with you at some point. We can kind of talk through it, but totally different. And I have full confidence that Granger will be on site and will be adhering to the design specs and everything along the way.
Well, I think we'd like to have that same confidence. So anything that you can provide that shows this oversight on a regular basis, what we're doing, so that we all feel that same confidence level. Because right now I don't. I have one more question on the HVAC. Does it make any sense, and it may not, to account for any of this COVID stuff and that HVAC stuff we're putting on top of the pool and any of the construction we're doing? Or is it there? Should it there? Does it need to be there? And I don't know what the answer is to that, but look for your opinion.
I'll find out to what degree they have. I mean, I know there is some levels with the filters and stuff that are used on the for the equipment. I can find out kind of to what degree, because there's been different studies and there's different filtration rates and things like that. I can get some information on what is included with this and send that over.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if we should account for it here, or with the uncertainty of COVID. I wanted to make sure I asked. So if we have an expert that can comment on that, that would be interesting. Thank you.
Yep. Find out what type of filters and stuff the units have, and what they're rated for, and we can get some of that information sent over.
So I have a question about the color schemes that we discussed earlier. So we have a committee, is that correct? We have a committee that's approving those colors and design schemes for that in place, who is that committee made up of?
So the first level, we just had us talking together, meaning our staff, and then Sean is part of the pool committee as it is, and so he also joined in. We're going to do another layer though, because we gave some ideas to them, and they're going to actually present some mock-ups at this point. So if you would like to, Dr. Pomponio, be a part of that, I will include you in that group as well.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Craig.
Thank you. So I guess I got just a couple things. I've been involved in this from the beginning, back when it was still an idea in the bond, before we had a bond to do this. So I just a couple things. One, and I'll take a stab at answering one of Rick's questions here, is it's a complicated thing when you get into the ventilation for a pool, because you're dealing with a couple things. First, the mechanical code requires you to change over that air, because you got to deal with the hygiene of that air, dealing with just the chlorine and the chemicals. The other part is you have to deal with the energy code that doesn't want you to change that air over too much, because then you're heating and cooling that air again. So the energy code, the ventilation code kind of work against themselves a little bit. But I think if COVID is a problem, we're not having a pool event with 500 people in there. So that it might not be an issue with it, not COVID related, but just with pool ventilation in general. It kind of gets strange. So I just got to say that working with the team, the design of this has been great. A lot of input, a lot of effort, a lot of wants. This is what we want. This is what we need. This is what we want. This is what we need. And they've really kind of done everything they can to rein that into a usable product. So I got to say, the team to this point has been great. I look forward to seeing where we go next and what we do. I want to answer some things that I've heard kind of from the community, kind of in general. It's important to understand the current pool is completely unusable. It's not just a matter of like popping that pool out and putting a new insert in or something. The pool area that's there is completely unusable. And that's why we've gone with the decision to create the new pool area and then revise the current pool area into the gym or into the weight room space. So just in case anybody out there is thinking that, hey, why don't they just put a new pool in for $50,000? That's not how this works. It's there's nothing usable there, and to redo it, it's really not a conducive space for having tournaments, for having meets, and it's just not a good space. But the way we've done it in going through this, it really does. It takes into account sight lines. It allows for tournaments, and it allows us to really expand this program, which was a very successful program prior to the pool closing down, because the pool just gave out. It wasn't any other decision other than the pool just itself gave out. So I look forward to seeing these programs, come back. And as far as we're talking about the pricing here, right now we're just talking about estimates, right, Rob? So I think we'll have a better idea when bids come back where we really are within that budget, if we're missing something or doing it. So again, I look forward to seeing those, to see get a little better idea of where we really are in lines with this. So thank you.
Yeah, and it really is, it's estimates. I mean, there's, it's Granger taking a look at the market, trying to figure out, prices fluctuate like crazy, different commodities at different times. They try to have a good pulse on the market. But what can really help us is good bidder turnout. That helps push the price down. And when we see the prices that came in for our summer renovation work, that I can share, when we're all said and done, we had good bidder turnout, and it helped drive our prices down, below where our estimates were. So it is. We won't know until the final day is in. I mean, it's never perfect. We would like to be a lot closer than what we are, but I think we see avenues to get to where we need to be, to have the funding if we absolutely have to, and if their estimates are right on track. If we came in exactly where they're projecting right now, we do have the funds, we do have the capability, some avenues to be able to get us there, so that you guys get the pool that you want without having to reduce something or reduce scope or reduce the size of the pool deck or anything like that. So that's the main thing we wanted to assure with you is we're looking for avenues to be able to make this happen if, worst case, we come in right where our estimates are right now. So. Any other questions on the pool or the weight room project? If I could, I know it wasn't on the agenda, if I could just take a couple more minutes just to kind of update you. At the next board meeting, we hope to bring to you a recommendation for our summer renovation work at Grogan and at Davidson. The award recs for those, we received bids a couple weeks ago on that project. We've been going through the post-bid meetings, scoping out all the contractors. We have, I think, one additional meeting to do tomorrow, and then we should be about done. Overall, the pricing came in very well. We received anywhere from 3 to 6 bidders in every category that was bid. So we had pretty good participation. So far, the scope reviews have gone pretty well. We have 2 or 3 bidders that we're working through right now with some questions that came up or clarifications when we were going through the scope. So hopefully in the next couple of days, we'll have that finalized and be able to present. But right now, we are basically right around where our budget was for the bond program. If you remember, through our estimates, we were over budget. We were looking at a DD estimate of around 2.4 million. Our budget was just under 2 million. We were at like 1.98 million for our budget for the work, and our estimates were around 2.4 million. Right now, we're a little under 2 million for the bids that came in right now that we're working through. So we still have 1 or 2 that, we got to see how it works out with scopes, if we have to go to the next bidder or not. We are working through that. So we did have 4 deduct alternate options to look at in case we needed to look at deducting some scope of work. So we have those that we could look at if we have to. And we had 1 add alternate as well that, potentially we could look to add back in if needed as well. So we're still going through all those, but right now I will say we are, if everything were to hold true with our low bidders, we are under budget right now for the base bid scope of work. So we have a couple more to finalize, but hopefully by next week we have that. We'll get you guys a recommendation ahead of time before the board meeting, and then I will present everything at the next board meeting to you guys for recommendation. get those contractors on board and get ready for summer renovation at Davidson and Grogan. And then also, I just wanted to note today we took bids for the roofing projects for this summer. We were bidding the roofing at Grogan Elementary. And then we picked up, we were looking at doing a couple sections of the Anderson roof. Overall, the Anderson roof is going to get all the areas replaced, but we were looking at a couple of the worst sections that they were having a lot of issues with here for this first summer. So we have 3 areas of that roof, mainly back around the athletics area. So those bids came in today. We received 6 bids from the roofers. If the 2 low bidders, each project was bid individually. If the 2 low bidders hold true, we would be under budget for that project as well too. If we had to go to the second bidders for both projects, we would probably be right on budget or maybe slightly over. But it would be nothing that the contingency for the roofing project probably couldn't handle. It'd be within a few $1,000s that we could include with the contingency. So we have those post bids already scheduled for Thursday and Friday with both low bidder, the 2 lowest bidders for both projects will be interviewed Thursday and Friday. And then we look to pull that package together and present it to you guys at the next board meeting for approval to get that on track too. So good couple recent weeks here with bids, I think. And I look forward to bringing you guys some information here shortly, but it's looking good here for these first couple things that we bid recently.
Are there any other questions for Rob? Or I also know that as Rob mentioned that Mark is in on this call also. Any questions for either of them? Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
Yep,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Mark, you're a man of many words. You're like Neil.
Mhm.
Inside joke from the board. Inside joke from the board. So, okay. Moving on. Item G. Ms. Irvine, the superintendent update in regards to elementary in-person attendance.
Yes, I just wanted to let you know that after our work session on the 23rd, we opened up our elementary in-person option again, and families had the opportunity to state an interest in returning to in-person between March 1st and 5th. And I just wanted to kind of give you an update. 83 students took advantage of that. And we're really able to place pretty much all of them in their home schools. So that's with the teachers that they had previously. So that's our big goal. That was our big goal. And there are a couple of exceptions that the principal's working with the families on, but by and large, that's the case. And so I just wanted to report that out. That means that among our remote and in-person students, excluding Atlas, 80% of, we have 80% in-person and 20% remote right now of our elementary students. So I just thought that might be of interest to you, just as a data point in terms of how that's falling at this point. So,
Any comments, questions for Ms. Irvine?
okay. Yeah, thank you to the team. I appreciate all the work the elementary principals have put into making those connections happen and being as sensitive as they have been. And those families will be able to start then right after spring break. Finance update, Barb was unable to make it last minute. So I just wanted to alert you that she's anticipating having a draft of the amended budget for 2021 or FY21. And she should have that by Monday. It'll go to the finance committee first, just for their review and questions. And then it'll come to the board as a whole on the 23rd of March for approval. So I just want to make sure you kind of knew what we were looking at moving forward. And that's the finance update.
Thank you. Item I, consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which consists of item 1, minutes from the February 23rd closed session and regular meeting, the HR update, and the disbursements for 2021.
Mr. Vice President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
I have a motion on the floor from Secretary Pomponio, support from Mr. Lamos. Is there any discussion?
Just one correction. It's for February 21, not 21.
February 21. Thank you, Mr. Lamos. Any other discussion? Mr. Grahowski, please call the vote.
Mr. Freitas,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Mr. Craig.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moves us on to action item J. Ha to some of you guys as acting president. I cannot read this motion, even though it's a long one, so somebody else has to. And it's the approval of the GSRP contract with Wayne Risa. Ms. Irvine?
Yeah, you won't have to read the whole proposal. There's just one little section at the end is your motion to read. The rest is just information, but I will definitely update you. You know, it's been an evolving opportunity with evolving information. And as you are aware, we talked about at our at the presentation at the last meeting, we do have an opportunity to build a preschool GSRP program. And we do have an opportunity that to get full funding for the number of slots that we are approved for this year. And that does have some extra advantages for us in terms of how we use any revenue over our expenditures for this year. So we do expect to be able to carry over a pretty significant sum of money into the next year to help cover the program as well. There are 72 full-day slots at this point. The motion before you, the contracts that are before you for approval are just for 2021. So it does have a defined date range of March 18th through June 17th, I believe, 2021, if they're that specific, actually 30th, 2021. So we did open, an invitation and as you know, the information went out to the community last week, and I will tell you that we already have 44 of the 72 filled, or at least signed up, and that is pretty significant considering that we have 72 total, and that's been about 7 days. So that's a big plus. We do currently, the program, one piece that has been nice in terms of, or at least helpful in terms of how we've been able to transition, is that the current preschool program has been simulating the GSRP model. So the model itself and the structure of the GSRP is not a new concept for the team. So that is helpful. They do have currently a Great Start quality rating already for our current preschool, which is tuition based. So we are able to start this moving forward this spring, all of it at Asher. There is a projected budget that would show lead teacher costs. We do have 4 teachers that are either in the process of being hired or in the queue for assignment for our lead teachers. And then as we build above 8, we will have a 1-to-8 ratio required, in which after 8, we would need to add the associate teacher as well. There are 3 contracts here for approval. One is the general GSRP contract with Wayne Risa. The other is the early childhood specialist contract, which is a prorated fee for a early childhood specialist that meets the qualifications for the program. And she's been working very closely with Crystal Priest, who is leading that program at this time. Crystal Priest is right now the director of our preschool and latchkey programming. So including this is a very natural part of her current role as well. Although I will definitely say that she's done quite a great job jumping on board and moving this forward. We're looking at the opportunity for playground upgrades. We're looking at some assessment costs, and we have an opportunity for preschool transportation as well, which is something that we probably want to talk about even more. There is, though, the contract, other than GSRP, is a preschool transportation contract, which is just gives money to our budget above and beyond the allocated for 72 slots. So if we were to use Dean to provide services for our preschool families, the would follow that to use that amount of money. If it's not used this year and we decide that's not what we're going to do, that would just be returned to them. So annually, when they give money for transportation, that does not ever carry over into the next year. Just so you're aware of that. So there's a question about kind of how would we know if this is working? You know, what are the metrics that will decide whether or not we want to move this into a long-term commitment? I think one of the important metrics is going to be K-1 enrollment. Are we seeing continuation from our preschool families into our kindergarten? And what does it look like overall enrollment in our elementary? What are the program costs of the general fund? Is it drawing anything from the general fund? And it does not, looking at it from this point of view, or at least in a projection of the next 2 years, it does not look like we would have to pull any money from general fund, at least for the next 2 years. Now, what would happen after that? And that would have to do with the carryover for sure. But again, it is fuzzy math until you actually have the individuals in place where the salaries are calculated into that to know. We would look at parent satisfaction surveys, certainly in academic performance tracking in kindergarten and first grade, which is already a requirement of the GSRP programming. But we do believe that if we can intervene or support students at a preschool level, I think that the experiences in the kindergarten setting will also benefit from that. So this is the contract. It's a series of contracts that we have before you for approval.
Questions for Ms. Irvine?
So do we have a projected cost of what it would cost us in the second and third year, or what they're going to fund us for the second and third year?
So we will keep the 72 slots. So it would be the same amount each year. The difference this year is that our actual expenditures will be significantly less than the following years. So in theory, when you look at a step one, or between step 0 and step 1 teacher, you are step 2, probably all the way up to about step 3 or 4. You're still going to break even on your costs. If you have a teacher who's climbing the UTS step ladder, then you can start seeing some overreach into the general fund. That is something that I don't anticipate would happen for at least a couple of years. We're right now, when we're looking at our program costs and staffing costs, they are at the BA1 level at this point.
And are they qualified for the program to teach in those programs? Do we have staff that's already qualified for this program?
Well, so in order to be qualified, you'd have to have a ZA or a ZS certification, or a graduate degree in child development or early child education. So one of those two, and everyone that would be hired for this program or assigned to that program would have those.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Ms. Irvine? Mr. Craig and then Mr. Lamos.
Sorry about that.
So again, just to clarify, this is a 1 year. We can sample it. We can see how we like it. We can see where we're at going into next year. And then I think, and this is on me, I think I had some misunderstanding kind of previously. So and I think I know the answers now, but I'd like to get it cleared up for sure. So GSRP is a little bit different than what I guess I would consider normal preschool, right? This is something that you have to be income eligible for, or does that not make sense?
This year you do not have to at all. Starting next year, there are some income eligibility requirements. However, you can accept over income because there's a combination of risk factors or income. So It doesn't necessarily have to be. You can accept a certain number over the income verification or the income limits. Are there any risk factors? And I would say that with this pandemic, it would be very hard for us not to find that a lot of our kids are coming in with some academic risk factors. But this is the program, for instance, that Lincoln Park has, Riverview has. This is the same, and that Allen Park certainly at one point had. I'm not sure if they have that right now, but as well. So this is your typical state-funded preschool program that is free, and that when you see preschool programming across the state, it's generally, if it's coming from the state, is the GSRP, unless it's Head Start. And obviously Head Start is a federally funded, but.
Right. Now, are we allowed to, if we get into the following years, are we allowed to kind of hybrid this a little bit and charge some kind of tuition or some kind of base for it?
Well, we can retain a tuition-based program. It wouldn't be the GSRP program. So we would have to decide, we can decide from year to year, how many slots do we want to have, or how many slots do we need? Do we need 72 slots? It'll be based on how many qualify. And if we have fewer slots than needed, then we'll make the adjustments on the staffing and program size wise. And then we can retain a tuition-based preschool as well. We could not, though, for any part of the GSRP program, charge tuition for those students.
Okay. So you can't blend it, but you can run two concurrent programs kind of.
Well, you can, not blending them in terms of how they participate in the program.
Right.
You have a kind of extended day that is a tuition base. Yeah, you could do that. Could you have could you decide to go half day slots? You know, that may also, and then have a complement that may still be available. I need to ask more questions about that one, just because they really are pushing for full day slots at this time.
Right. So we do have some options going forward. We're not tied into anything. And
No, this contract right now is just 2021, and this year, and no income eligibility, no risk factors involved, full funding, partial costs, high carryover. And
Okay.
then it's next year and the year beyond that we can bring that contract forward. And then with this in place this year, we'll have a better chance to gauge what the cost or the trailing costs might be moving into for future years.
Okay. And if we get more than the 72, how do we pick who we put in there? Do we get that choice? Or is it
Right now for the spring, it's a first come, first serve is what we've said, because there are no prioritization requirements or factors involved. In a typical year, when this is not the case, and there are the eligibility factors, if you have greater interest than you and qualifiers, then you have spots for, you have to pick them higher prioritized based on the level of need.
So we're not allowed to just, and this doesn't have to be a resident-based program, right? So we're going to be taking.
Based.
Okay, so we wouldn't be able to put a priority on Southgate families. We would have to put a priority on need. And if the higher need came from another community, we would have to provide it to them ahead of Southgate.
Let me look, when that comes up and becomes an issue for the next round, let me get that answer for you.
But this time's just first come, first serve.
First come, first serve.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Lamos?
So with the target number of 72 slots, we need the one lead teacher and one associate teacher for up to 16, correct?
Right. So the number of slots is at the 72, which would put 18 in each one.
Right, which means we'd need a second associate teacher for that.
You can have, the second associate teacher can be a traveling teacher, meaning that you can have, for instance, if on a given day 16 kids show, or fewer than 16 kids show, then you wouldn't have to use them. You can rotate them through the program, for instance, to put them where that 18th kid is or the 17th student is. So they're a lot more flexibly based and can adjust more to your budget and scale when that is the case. But we're looking at making sure that we're within we're right sizing. So there's always going to be a question, are we funded for 72 slots? If we don't fill those 72 slots, we give the money back, meaning that it's much like what we have now, which is you get paid by the state for the students that you have. So if we only fill to 16, then we only fill to 16. And if we decide that cost-wise, when we start looking at that tighter revenue to expenditure fit that would happen in future years, those are decisions you'd have to make pretty carefully.
And then from a licensing standpoint, do we have the space that will be approved by state licensing folks? I know there's requirements related to bathrooms and sinks and all sorts of things like that. Are we already in good shape there? Or are we going to have to?
I'm going to let Crystal, I had her on standby. I told her, there's going to be a question I know that she's going to be poised to answer, and she's been prepping. So,
Great.
Crystal, do you want to talk a little bit about the licensing path that you've been on?
Sure, I can. Hi, good evening. So I'm in the process of getting 2 of the rooms licensed. Can you hear me right now?
Yep.
Just enough.
Thank you. Just enough. Okay, thank you. I'm in the process of getting 2 of the rooms licensed over at Asher right now. We've already passed the environmental health inspection with the health department. I'm still waiting on a lead inspection, and then the final process is for licensing to come out and do an inspection. But I don't anticipate any major issues. They've already checked the bathrooms and sinks.
So 2 rooms are already licensed at Asher. So these are the other 2 rooms that
Right.
would need to be added, so that we have 4 licensed rooms.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then while you're on, thank you for coming and staying late
Sure.
tonight, by the way.
No problem.
I was reading through some of the reporting requirements on the RISA docs that are kind of the documents we have to agree to.
Mhm.
And it looks like there's a lot of reporting. I'm not surprised with the state. So are we poised and ready to do that as well? Do we need additional staff to do that? Or is that already in our sights because we've been behaving like this for a while anyway?
Yes, that's correct. I'm on course already to learn all
Okay.
this. A lot of it I already know. As
Okay.
Mr. Irvine mentioned, we've already been practicing a lot of the requirements as far as curriculum, assessment, screening, our great start to quality ratings. So we've been on track for this for years.
Okay. All right. And then in terms of potential variable costs, janitorial, will this impact, are we considering the janitorial cost of filling these rooms now? And the same would be for our supplies and even potentially any marketing costs, although it sounds like they're filling up so quickly, we're not going to have to worry about that. But janitorial costs, are we going to have delta in our costs there that we've already considered?
Well, I would say that if we're looking at it from this year, our rooms are underutilized right now, and our custodial services are probably underutilized at Asher at this point, just because we don't have as many students that are there that would normally be there. So we're in a good position right now to manage the cleaning requirements with the staff that we have without any increase.
Thank you. And supplies too? And snacks and food and that kind of stuff we've got under wraps?
So the food service department, because we have free and reduced lunch, has already been in touch, and it's already ready to go. So Mark Rodriguez, the director of our food service program, has already been in and scheduled that. So it will be free of charge, and all of that will be federally funded, as it is with every other program that we have at this time. As far as materials go, the Wayne Risa is part of that transfer from MDE to Wayne Risa for the supervision of GSRP. They have a warehouse of furniture and supplies and materials that we just go and collect them, and they deliver them, and they equip our rooms, and then while we have the program, there they are, and then if the program ever closes down or shutters, they take all that equipment back with them.
Okay. All right. Interesting. And then one last question. And I know we're going to do some work on the playgrounds as a result of this, right? So
We hope to, yes.
I think that in some cases, the only kids that can use that are those that are in the program. So
No.
number one, is that true? Is that true? Number two, how do we get around it if that were?
Yeah, we did ask for that clarification. We just have to make sure that whatever is upgraded, that our children are using it. It doesn't mean that no one else can use it. That's true for buses too. We asked that question about the bus. You know, if we're transporting kids and we're using a GSRP funded bus, for instance, does that mean we cannot use that for other students? They said, no, you can use it for other students. So it's not exclusive to the GSRP students, but they have to be there to use it. So we couldn't, for instance, we can use it for mulch, like we've already talked to them about the mulch exchange. They will support that on our playgrounds. Now, if it came to a slide that was not at the age level for 4-year-olds, it's not compliant with the licensing for playground equipment for 4-year-olds, they're not going to replace that, because that's clearly for an upper elementary student, for instance. By slide, meaning one of the tube slides that are really high. That's not a playground piece for that age group. So they would be very careful about making sure that the playground pieces that they are funding are licensed and usable by the young children. But mulch is something they've already approved, and it would not mean that only the GSRP students could use that.
Will that be wood mulch, or will it be the synthetic mulch?
It would be a certified playground mulch. So we're just getting, I don't have that answer.
Okay.
Jacob is not on. I'm just really bummed because I have the estimates coming in. I should tell you that. But I'll answer that in a question to you.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank
In
you.
one of those updates.
And then one last question, as I was reading through the documents on the what we can and can't do and the rigor we're held to, I think it said we cannot suspend students. Is that true?
It does speak to finding alternatives for working with students.
All right. And you guys are comfortable with that, Ms. Priest? You know how to cope with that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? I have a couple, Sharon. So I'm going to go back to the first page. So you said this contract is right. What we're approving tonight is only through June. Is that correct, or is it through the end of the year? Because it says 2021.
It's through the end of the school year because they adjusted the contract under the terms of which the preschool program would be available to us this year, which would be very unique.
Okay, so in the write-up, it says in the fall, GSRP would move preschool programs to each elementary. That's looking forward if we continue with the program. Is that why that's in there?
Yes, that's in there. That means that a contract for future, meaning moving into the 21-22, will come to the board within probably the next month.
And I know I'm not a math teacher, so I'm going to ask this. I'm seeing the revenue at 511 plus 40, and then all the expenditures are 386, and then the rollover says 158. I kind of did some quick math. I came up with 165. Is that a typo, or is there more money I'm missing somehow?
It may have been a typo.
Okay, so I do know how to do math still then.
You do. Me too.
Okay. It's amazing. I really think I don't sometimes. Last question. So the funding from Wayne County is going to pay for the expenditures, which basically, just to understand, relief from the general fund. So Ms. Priest, who will be the GSRP director, we're going to use the money from the revenue of this program to pay her salary. That's what that means. Is that correct?
Projected, yeah.
Instead of general
That means that we can transfer that cost to our GSRP. We were able to transfer, for instance, the mailing that the kindergarten enrollment and preschool enrollment mailing that went out, that can be attributed to this particular grant. We also have,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So finally, last question, sorry, it'll be a pain in your butt, but you mentioned if we do a tuition-based preschool and keep a GSRP, would Miss Priest be doing both? Are we going to give her a whole lot of more money for doing both? Because that's a lot of work.
Are you negotiating for her?
No.
Teasing.
I'm just saying, I mean, if we do a tuition-based, somebody has to be head of preschool, right? And if we do GSRP, somebody has to be head of GSRP. Do we have a plan for that? Would she be ahead of both, or are those two different jobs, which are two different costs to us? Because those are two different ball games.
We're working through the budget here over the next couple of months.
I'm just making sure that I mean, she's doing both jobs. I guess she gets paid for both jobs, but I'm not a lawyer. Okay. Any other questions?
Just one. Ms. Irvin, you mentioned we'll be looking at the next year's contract in a month.
In the near future, because we still have enrollment pieces that are moving forward into next year. And if we're going to do it, we need to make sure that we have everything ready to go for licensing for the different buildings and so forth. So probably within the next couple of months, you'll see something for 21-22. 2022 enrollment.
We're pretty confident, though, that what we're going to make because of the deal we're getting here for opening this program the next 2 months, that will pay for next year, right? So we have
That we will have the money to pay for it for next year.
So we'll be able to take a look at some of those analytical figures you're looking at of if it's worthwhile, if students are staying in the district and this and that before we make a decision to move into like a third year,
Right.
basically. Okay. Any other questions?
We're going to have to come forward to the board, though. We'll still bring it to the board.
Sure. No, absolutely. But I just wanted to be clear that if we approve another year in another month, if we approve another year or it comes to the board, that we're pretty much assured from what we're going to be making in April and May that's not going to put us into the negative, at least for that year. It'll give us time to take a look at the data if we feel it's worth it moving forward, whether it's continuing with GSRP for that next year or adding the tuition based. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Priest or Ms. Irvine? Thank you, ladies. I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the GSRP subrecipient contract, GSRP subrecipient transportation contract, and GSRP early childhood specialist contract with Wayne Risa for 2020, 2021 as presented.
Is there a second?
Support.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor by Dr. Pomponio, second by Mr. Lamos. Any discussion? None forthcoming. Mr. Kurowski, can you please call the vote?
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. Freitas.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Let's get this going. Good job. Thank you for all your hard work, both of you.
Thank you, Mr. Priest.
Brings us to action item 2, approval of the mode of instruction for March. Ms. Irvine?
Yes. So if you may be aware that we are monthly considering our mode of instruction. And if you look at our COVID rates, according to the criteria that we've used up to this point, we have, we're about, I think we're at an average of 4 daily new cases for our weighted average. So I think we're well within our range still to continue an in-person option. And I would like to recommend that we continue the in-person options available for all of our students that are currently in place.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Irvine?
I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Craig?
Sorry, just one quick question. I mean, do we plan on continuing with the 4 days, or are we looking at that at all?
Well, so if right now we're continuing with the 4 days rather than the 5. There was, briefly the chance that there may be an incentive for adding in that 5th day. The way it's materialized since we talked last, it was going to be a catch-up for any district who didn't get at least $450 per student through ESSER money. And if they didn't, they would get money from the legislature, and but in return, they would have to be in school 5 days a week. So it wouldn't apply to us because we are well above that. Our ESSER amount is close to $775 per student, within that range. So it's pretty significant, and it's not, we're not in that category at all. So we do not have any pressure to move to a 5-day-a-week schedule. However, if the board wanted to consider that, we can talk about that at our next work session as we prepare for our next mode of instruction. But at this time, we're not considering that.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure the kids love it, but I just didn't know if it was still necessary or felt like it was necessary.
No, and if you have been watching, Governor Whitmer actually line item vetoed several parts of the plan moving forward. So they're only actually going to be releasing 40% of the ESSER money at this point, and they have to go back to the table to negotiate the additional So we don't, the 2.4, roughly 2.4 million that's headed our way, we're only getting about 900,000, close to $1 million at this time, and then hoping for the rest soon.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Irvine? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve in-person, remote, and virtual instruction to all Southgate Community School students for March as presented.
Motion on the floor, Mr. Craig.
I'll support.
Motion on the floor and by Mr. Lamo, supported by Treasurer Craig. Is there any discussion? Mr. Grahowski, can you please call the vote?
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. Freitas,
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion passes. Ms. Irvine, are there any employee representatives?
No, there isn't.
Thank you. Moving on, information and announcements.
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio.
So first of all, I want to say that one of the things that I think about and that's important is the health and mental health of the students that are coming back or the students that are remote or virtual. So again, I want to thank Candace Duane and Karen Dunhalter and also Kelly Thomas for supporting the students in various ways, and also for parents and students to seek some additional help if you need to. They have all the resources, and I know they built additional resources in the website, but there's a website called kidsempowered.com, and Mrs. Dunhalter had sent out a link to some important workshops that they have there. It costs maybe $20 or maybe a little bit more for some of them, but it helps for students and parents to kind of build back into getting more stable with their mental health and dealing with ADHD. There's some workshops with that, and parent workshops, and empowering girls with self-esteem issues. So I think it's important because some of the issues that students have or they had during the long online classes at home and no interaction or socialization, we want to keep looking at how they're dealing with their mental issues and how they're working back into the school, re-socializing. So again, there's a lot of resources that Candace Duane and Mrs. Dunhalter have put together. If you don't know, if you can't find it online, try to contact them. And also, again, if you have any issues with depression or have any concerns, contact the counseling office. They can refer you to some resources, and then also with the OK to Say for bullying. So those are the things I want to make sure that parents can reach out if your kids are distant or isolated, just to try to reach out for some resources if you can. But again, thank you to Mrs. Dunhalter, Candace Duane, and Kelly Thomas for working with our students.
Thank you, Dr. Pomponio. I do also want to highlight the work that our curriculum director, Dr. Baker Herring, has done in getting our social emotional learning grant passed and curriculum out to our teachers as well. And so it really has been a team effort to make sure that we all have the resources and thoughtfulness in how we support our students moving forward.
Thank you, and thank you to Dr. Baker Herring as well.
Anybody else? I will have a few announcements. I would like to say that just want to remind the community that this is a situation, the return to school plan, everything we're trying to do, the bond update that's continuously fluid. It's the world's changed a lot. You know, our community, the whole world, but you know, it's not just us, but we're constantly trying to do the best for this community under some very interesting times. If we really think about a year ago yesterday, we were all sitting having pizza, or most of us celebrating a bond that passed. And, you know, 1 year later, you know, it was about a year ago. I'm not sure if it was exactly yesterday, but it was pretty darn close. now, we're seeing the infrastructure of the schools improved. We are, the bathrooms, the lighting, the floors, in the schools, restructuring the doors. We have a new football field. We're getting a new pool. So we're seeing the fruits of those labors because of the support of the community. And then 2 days after we were celebrating was the first COVID case in the state of Michigan, and it changed everything. And I'm not trying to make it political, whatever your personal belief is on this and that. That the bottom line is that the world changed just like that, and we're still moving forward. So whether you agreed with us or not agreed with us over the last couple of months, everybody in this board, everybody from previous superintendents to the current superintendent to DBH, the principals, the administrators, the teachers, all in it together, trying to do our best. And again, understand that things could change tomorrow again, just like those 2 days. There was so much change of what happened 1 year ago. But I'd like to thank the community, I guess, for going through the struggles with us, all of us together. And with that being said, I welcome the students back, those that are staying in online, the choices that I think this board really took our time. And I know that sometimes it seemed like it was a slow process, but I think it was a process that we really vetted and gave decisions for our families and for those staying at home, those are remote, those are in person. We hope it's working for you. If it's not, please contact us, and we'll try to solve those problems. And let's continue to move forward to make Southgate truly the best place for your students to be in the choice that you would like to make. Finally, I would like to wish, without getting into too much depth, my good friend, all of us, I'm sure Mr. Estheimer, are going through some family struggles, and all the love to he and his family, his brother, his sister, his mother, so forth and so on. And keep him in your thoughts if you know Tim. And with that, I will call for an adjournment or entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Lamos, support by Dr. Pomponio to adjourn the meeting. Ms. Grahowski, roll please.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. Freitas,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio.
Yes.
Have a good night, everyone.